Hello everyone, I'm Frank and I'm 19. Come on, how many of you have ever dreamed of a twin sibling? You probably think this might be a great idea. Don't jump to conclusions so fast. In fact, it's not that fun at all. Subscribe to the channel while I tell you my story. Well, my sister Beverly and I are twins. Yes, we don't look alike, even though we were born on the same day. Our parents forced us to be friends from childhood, but my sister and I were always fighting. We were in the same school program, and we had one room for both of us. What could have been worse? After high school, Beverly and I went to another city to go to, of course, the same college. And since we were short of money, we had to rent one apartment for both of us. That's a bummer. That was how we spent the whole first year. My sister was employed part-time as a dancer at a local club, and I still couldn't find a job for myself. I was rapidly running out of money, and my girlfriend Ashley was a bit unhappy about it. Well, who likes a guy who can't even buy an ice cream for his girlfriend? Long story short, I wanted a job badly. I sent out my CV to various ranges of companies and begged for interviews, but it was useless. No one liked to hire a young guy with no experience. Suddenly, one day, I got lucky. The head of a law firm was interested in me. Mr. Benson needed an assistant and agreed to arrange an online interview. On the appointment day, I got ready and turned on the computer. I had to make the best impression on him. I badly needed that job. At first, everything went well. I confidently answered all the questions. Suddenly, Mr. Benson's face fell in surprise. He was looking somewhere behind my back. What was happening? I looked back and saw Beverly. She was walking around the room in a rather revealing suit, as if nothing was happening. Heck, she was ruining my interview. I tried to explain myself to Mr. Benson, but he said that the interview was over and he would call me back. I was absolutely furious. Because of my sister, I lost such a job. I jumped up and started fighting. Sorry, Frank, I didn't know you had an important call, Beverly replied. She also said that she had not been doing that on purpose. She just got a new dance outfit and wanted to try it on. But it didn't make me feel any better. I had to start all over again, and I had no money at all, even to pay for utilities. Who is to blame? You are such a loser. The sister could not stand it. Anyways, we had a really bad fight, and I decided I wasn't going to talk to that stupid girl anymore. To recover from it, I went for a walk with Ashley. I had to spend my last $20 to do it. When our date was about to end, Ashley cheerfully told me that some rich guy was hitting on her. He had already given her a ride in his own car and constantly invited her to spend some time together in the coolest club in the city. I realized that if I didn't find the money, she would become my ex. So I started looking for a job with a renewed vigor. But as usual, I got rejected everywhere I applied. Then, a couple of days later, I got a call from Mr. Benson. I didn't even expect him to remember me after that disastrous interview, but he said that he had considered my candidacy and was ready to offer me a job in his company. I couldn't believe my ears. Did I get this job? I was so excited. I wanted to share the good news with Beverly right away. Then I remembered that we were still in silent mode after the fight. I wasn't going to be the first to put up with her, as I thought she'd almost ruined my interview. I was lucky that Mr. Benson had given me a chance to prove myself, despite my sister's silly prank, and I had to keep my new position. The next day, after classes, I went to the office of the law company. Mr. Benson met me personally. He sat me down in the best seat in his office and told me what my prospects could be. I couldn't even imagine what a cool company I got in. He promised me a very good pay and good benefits, a personal car, and a vacation in the Maldives. In a nutshell, I was over the moon. I took a tiny down payment from Mr. Benson at the end of the day and immediately went for a walk with my girlfriend. We went to the cinema and walked in the club. That night, I could afford to pay for everything. Ashley was pleased, and I was happy that my life seemed to get better. So I started working for Mr. Benson's company. But one day, the head started a strange conversation with me during lunch. Casually, he asked, "Frank, who was that girl that was behind you during your interview?" I realized that he was asking about Beverly, who had almost ruined my life. So I immediately replied that she was my sister and begged Mr. Benson's pardon for her behavior. But my boss seemed thinking about it and finally said, "Frankly speaking, I think I like her. You should introduce me to her." I never expected that, and I didn't know what to tell Mr. Benson. Beverly may be a silly girl, and I'd still resent her, but she's my sister. And I had to say I didn't like my boss's request, so I politely refused him. Mr. Benson smiled and said he was sorry. The next day, I understood what he meant. As soon as I came to my place, I was immediately told that I now had a new place in the office and was taken to the farthest, most uncomfortable corner. None wished to work there. It was unpleasant, but I like to think that it wasn't done on purpose. I was asked to stay late to finish some important work. I told my boss I couldn't do it because I had a date with my girlfriend. Mr. Benson reminded me that I had accepted a down payment and now had to work it off. As a result, I had to cancel my date with poor Ashley and stay late at the office. But the most unusual thing was that the next day, the same thing happened again. I was again thrown another huge assignment and even told for being late. Mr. Benson gave me an attitude, and then I realized why everything was turned upside down. I refused to hook him up with my sister, and now he was just taking revenge on me. It was pretty nasty. On the other hand, there was nothing I could do. I needed this job. After a week, the job became completely beyond my patience. Besides, I made a mistake once and was threatened with dismissal. All this time, I could not see Ashley, and she started to resent me. Anyway, it was already too much, and I took the decision. It was evening. I went to my sister and said that I wanted to make peace. She grumbled, but finally agreed. It was half of the battle. I was happy to say that I got a cool job and I have a great boss. I asked if Beverly would like to meet him. "Why would I? Why do I agree?" she replied. I begged her and told her that I would just get fired if she didn't do that. Beverly resented me again, but then she thought about it and said, "Okay, deal. But there will be one thing." I was so happy. I was willing to do whatever she wanted me to do to keep my job. She smiled slyly and added, "You have to dance in a costume I have for you at the club." Heck, I didn't expect that at all. But there was nothing actually I could do, and agreed. As you may have guessed, Beverly met Mr. Benson, and my troubles at work immediately disappeared. I got a better place in the office again. My work hours were quite flexible, and I even got a raise. Of course, I felt that it wasn't a nice thing to do, but I did it to keep my job and get on with my life. I started spending a lot of time with my girlfriend again. But just a few days later, Beverly came up to me and told me that I had to do what I had promised. With that, she handed me a dance suit. It was a complete nightmare. This was something I would never wear in my life. "Frank, you promised, and you have to dance all night wearing this nice outfit," she said cheerfully. You can't imagine how uneasy I felt. But I resigned myself and decided to do it at any cost. And then the evening came. I put on the suit that Beverly had given me and showed up at the club. All the people around watched me and smiled. I felt extremely uncomfortable. I began to dance, hoping that no one would recognize me at that moment. Otherwise, my reputation would be ruined. As time went, I was hoping all this would come to an end as soon as possible, and I could hurry home. Suddenly, I turned and saw my sister, and she wasn't alone. My boss was sitting next to her. Mr. Benson stared at me, amazed. I felt I was turning red. Beverly waved at me and shouted cheerfully, "You look great today, my little brother." Oh, you. Only now did I realize that she had done it on purpose. Mr. Benson stood up and glowered at me and said, "You're both insane." After that, he immediately left the club, and Beverly, satisfied with her revenge, danced merrily beside me. I realized that I had just lost my job. I was kicked out of the company the very next day, and a few days later, Ashley left me and started dating some rich guy. Naturally, I was very angry with my sister for what she did to me. Maybe I did a bad thing, forcing her to meet my boss, but Beverly had made it worse, and now it was my turn to play a little prank on her. You have no idea what I've come up with. Leave your comments if any of you have guessed what I'm about to put on a show.